Make sure you are subscribed to Dolphins Today because it is a big week, but we always put out daily Miami Dolphins videos, have weekly live shows, but this is an important week because we have clips from the NFL Combine, full Mike McDaniel interview. Hit that sub button for the best Dolphins draft coverage on YouTube. Speaking of NFL draft coverage around the Miami Dolphins, we have our 6th mock draft, 4th of the NFL offseason. We've done 6 in total, and this one is an intriguing one because it comes before the NFL Combine. Combine starts Tuesday through Saturday, but I wanted to do a mock draft where I think things could go before the Dolphins ultimately meet with some of these prospects and news and notes comes out about these guys. And the first player that we're going to draft at 13, by the way, we're doing trades, but we won't trade in the first round. We're going to take a corner here, Will Johnson out of Michigan. This is a fascinating selection that I would not have anticipated doing in a mock draft this year, but now that the Dolphins released Kendall Fuller, there is a lot of holes in this cornerback room. The only true starter you have is Jalen Ramsey because I don't trust Storm Duck, Cam Smith, or Ethan Bonner. Kohu's a restricted free agent. You moved off of Fuller, and you have an immediate need at boundary corner, but you also need to get younger at the position with Jalen Ramsey getting up there in age. Will Johnson came into the year as the number 1 corner, a top 5 pick in this draft class, but has fallen down the boards due to a lackluster 2024 season. He was injury plagued this past year, but he is an absolute threat at all times to take away the football and score. He has 3 touchdowns himself. That's not allowed. That's himself. He's a ball hawk. He's been a lengthy 3-year starter. This is a really solid boundary corner that would be able to be a day 1 starter right away. You might be asking, how is he falling to 13 after originally being a top 5 projection coming into this year? Well, it's because of the lack of time that he played in 2024, and he had a little bit of a down season in comparison to that national championship year in 2023. I mean, that season for Will Johnson was absolutely elite, allowing no touchdowns, taking the ball away 4 times, only allowing a 267 yards through the air and a 30.9 QB rating. Those numbers are just out of this world. But the injury history, there is also concern about his speed. He might, if he runs the combine, come in a little bit slower, which might concern people in an NFL that consistently is just worrying about speed, but he's got the measurables to be an outside corner. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. He's good in terms of his youth as well. Will be 21.9 years of age when the draft rolls around, so you're getting a young but experienced NFL draft prospect that would be able to fit a need for Miami right away, and that is where I want to get your thoughts before I give you mine. Would you draft a corner in round 1, the top 3 corners in this draft? Travis Hunter, Will Johnson, and Barron from Texas. Would you draft one of them if they're at 13? Obviously, Hunter will not be available, but let me know your thoughts on the other 2 prospects, type Y for yes or type N for no. I would draft Will Johnson with the 13th pick in the draft. Listen, Miami needs a corner now that they release Kendall Fuller. They don't have enough depth outside of Jalen Ramsey. I don't trust Storm Duck, Ethan Bonner, or Cam Smith. Will Johnson would do 2 things for you. It would bridge the gap in terms of needing an outside corner to start opposite of Jalen Ramsey for 2025, but it would also give you a future at the position. Ramsey's getting closer and closer to 30 years old, and with his contract becoming higher and higher, it could be a cap casualty in the next couple of seasons. Will Johnson can be your foreseeable CB1 of the future, but also create a extremely good duo between him and Ramsey this season as a rookie. I would draft Will Johnson with the 13th pick in the draft if the Dolphins address other needs in free agency before the NFL draft. And then we'll move on here to the next pick after the Will Johnson selection. That is on the defense as well. Alfred Collins, the defensive lineman from Texas. So no trades as of yet. We'll make the first 2 selections at 13 and 48. Collins is an intriguing name here because He is someone who is very experienced as well, has played a lot of football in his career, damn near a 4-year starter for Texas, and he has been productive every single year of his career. Not known for getting after the quarterback, but got better at it his final 2 seasons. You see the 23 and 18 pressures the past 2 years. He's known for more of a run stuffer, which actually makes me more happy because if you're drafting Alfred Collins, this is to complement Zach Sealer on the interior defensive line. And I think Sealer, although he can do it both, is better as a pass rusher, so getting someone that can help stuff the run alongside him would be very, very valuable. He had his best year of his career this past season for the Texas Longhorns, having an 87.2 PFF grade. But the part that makes me so intrigued with him as a prospect is the fact that he's 6'4", 6'5", 320 pounds, can absolutely eat up space on the interior, and this number right here is at the upper echelon of college football defensive linemen this past season, a 7.4% run stop rate, but the 6.9 pass rush win rate is also good too. There is no downside in Collins' game, and I think having him be your D lineman 2 next to Zach Sealer could provide a lot of positive things. I like the idea of going defensive line in round 2, whether it's TJ Sanders, Alfred Collins, Deion Walker, but I wanted to show you a new name that we haven't talked about on the channel in the past. Our first trade alert, woo! We're trading up from the 98th pick in the 3rd round to pick number 82 with the Seattle Seahawks. Miami's sending one of their 4th round picks in 2025. They have 2 of them, and one of their 3 7th round picks as well to move up 16 spots. Yes, I know you're trading 2 future picks to move up 16 spots, but I think it's worth it because I wanted to snag Wyatt Milum, the offensive lineman from West Virginia, and I just did not feel confident about him sliding to the end of the 3rd round. Wyatt is an intriguing prospect that could play both offensive tackle and offensive guard in the NFL, if you ask me, and it's why I want to look at him before the Combine, because he was excellent for the West Virginia Mountaineers this past season. His PFF grades are off the chart, and he's an intriguing fit for Miami because of how good he is in the zone run blocking scheme. Was actually graded out by PFF at 90.0 in terms of his zone grade, which is huge because we'll talk about this a lot with targets for Miami. The Dolphins' offensive line scheme relies a lot on the zone, so you need to be able to play that. No sacks allowed this past season, was excellent for the Mountaineers. Was a 3-year starter at left tackle, but going into the Combine, there's questions about his arm length. Will it be long enough to be an offensive tackle in the NFL? And even if it is, it might barely be enough. 34 inches is the arm length that is really the benchmark in the NFL. If he is just at that number or just below, he might get projected as a guard at the next level. He's 6'6", 300 plus pounds. This is someone who is mobile as well. He has the versatility of maybe playing outside and inside on the offensive line, which is something that would intrigue Chris Grier because we know he likes the versatility on offensive linemen, why he likes Isaiah Wynn so much. So this is a prospect that I think we should keep our eye out for in the Combine because it will tell you a lot if teams will view him as an offensive tackle or an offensive guard. If he's an offensive guard, I think he will be available here in the 3rd round potentially. If he is an offensive tackle, he might get up the boards a little bit into early day 2, mid to late round 2 because of how well he was last season. That's why we got to keep an eye on some of these guys because he could ultimately be someone that is a tackle and not a guard, which would rise his value. Another trade alert. Moving up again in the 4th round. We knew we had 2 4th-round picks. I wanted to move up to the top of the 4th round. The first pick of round 4 on day 3, 101 with the Titans. We trade 114, a 7th-round pick in this year's draft, and then a future 2026 6th-round pick. You might be saying, well, this is a lot to give up to just move up 13 spots on day 3, but I wanted to grab a safety to add to this room, and I thought there was a clear tier break in this mock draft simulator between Jonas, Sanker, and the next best guy. Sanker is someone that I've highlighted quite a bit on our shows in the past. I think he is someone who can do it all for the Dolphins and any team in the NFL, if we're being honest. He was very productive for the Cavaliers this past season at Virginia. 6'1", 210, 98 tackles, got pretty solid numbers in the defense department as well in coverage. And there's some advanced numbers that I really like from Jonas Sanker when you specifically look at him in terms of his pass coverage, which shows his versatility. He can play deep as the roaming safety. He can play in the box. He got some nickel experience as well for that Virginia defense. His grades from PFF solid, but he only allowed 2 touchdowns and a QB rating of 87.6. I'm not going to complain about that. Then you look at his forced incompletion rate, which was in the top 15% of college football this past season at 15.4%, and a missed tackle rate of 13%. Now, that missed tackle rate was just about average for safeties this past season, but when you look at what the missed tackle rates for the Dolphins safeties this past year was, Javon Holland was sitting at 18%. And I know it's a different league and easier competition in the ACC, but Sanker has shown that he can at least step up and make tackles, 98 of them this past season. I think this is a good player that Miami could add. Maybe it would be ballsy to start him right away as your safety number 2, but you get him in the room with Patrick McMorris, assuming that you sign a safety in free agency as well, and you might have a solid young safety room on your hands. I'm intrigued by Jonas Sanker. 3 more picks to get to here in just a second. Make sure you represent the Miami Dolphins. A sweet Nike gray tee on sale, $5 off when you go to chatsports.com/Dolphins gray shirt. That link is in the description and comments of today's video. Get yours now before they run out. 3 more picks here, 2 of them in the 5th round, and we have 1 7th-round pick left. No more trades in this mock draft. We're going QB here. Kyle McCord out of Syracuse. I will consistently draft a quarterback on day 3 of the NFL draft in every single mock draft I do, so stay tuned for it. We've talked about McCord in the past, someone that Dolphins fans are well aware of as a target. He absolutely improved this past season, going from Ohio State to Syracuse, was much better with the ball in his hands. Yeah, his interceptions went up slightly, but it's because his volume went up. But you see his yardage, his total touchdowns, his completion percentage all took a bump up from 23 to 2024, which is intriguing because, yeah, he's going to lesser competition in the ACC, but he also had worse weapons, right? He's not working with Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka, like he did at Ohio State. He improved from year to year. I like that from McCord. He flashed at the Senior Bowl as well. This is someone that is continuing to rise up boards. He might not even be available mid-late day 3, but I think he is going to be someone that the Dolphins have their eye on. I like Kyle McCord. I expect the Miami Dolphins to target 3 specific QBs in early day 3 of the NFL draft. We made trades in this mock draft, but I think there's a chance if they stay put, they utilize a lot of these selections in day 3 that they have on a QB. I think Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, and Kyle McCord are 3 quarterbacks Mike McDaniel and Chris Grier will highlight and target, and I would expect that the NFL Combine this week to see some of those names emerge as players that the Dolphins have met with and have targeted early in this NFL Combine kind of stretch. And that brings me to this question I want to ask everybody in the chat. Who is your favorite Dolphins QB target for the draft? Now, I'm taking away Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders because they're both going in the top 10 in all likelihood, and the Dolphins aren't going to draft them. Outside of those 2, who's your favorite QB target in the draft? I know we've talked a lot about Jackson Dart in the past, but I think he ultimately goes early day 2 or even late in the 1st round, so that takes him out of contention for Miami. Who's your favorite late QB target? 2 more picks left, and we're going to go tight end here. Jackson Hawes out of Georgia Tech, and this is an absolute bruiser of a tight end. Miami needs to probably add another to this group after releasing Durham Smythe. They currently have Tanner Connor, Jonnu Smith, and Julian Hill, but we know everyone's thoughts on Julian Hill, and we know that Jonnu Smith is going to be a free agent after this upcoming year. Now, Hawes is more of a blocking tight end, if we're going to be honest. He wasn't that productive in the passing game for the Jackets this past season, but look at that size on him, man. 6'5", 260. I think would be able to play right away for the Dolphins as a blocking tight end, maybe replacing Julian Hill, being a cheaper option for him is Mike McDaniel, that is, and maybe Hill is a cut candidate for the Dolphins. Listen, he graded out really well for a team that runs the ball a lot in Georgia Tech, 74.7 PFF run blocking grade. You saw his size, 6'5", 250, 260. He'd even maybe be a fullback long-term, replacing Alec Ingold. I think there's a lot of versatility for Jackson Hawes, and yeah, he's more of just a run blocker, but I do think he's someone Miami could look at with one of their day 3 picks that they have a lot of. Last pick, 1/7 rounder. We're taking Kyren Lacy, and I know this is a controversial pick here because of his issues in the legal system, which we'll touch on in just a second. But when you look at his raw talent, it's hard to deny that he would be a home run pick this late in the draft. He got great size, 6'2", 213, very productive, number one wide receiver target for Garrett Nussmeier this past season at LSU, 9 total touchdowns. I watched him in person in the first game of the season between LSU and USC in Las Vegas, and he just stood out to me. I thought he was the best player on the field out of both teams, if we're going to be completely honest. I was really impressed by Lacy, but there is the issue of the legal matter, and he might just be completely taken off people's boards, and you can't blame him because there is speculation he's been charged with a hit and run, and there's speculation that, or there is someone that passed away. And listen, if he's connected to this and he is charged fully and the legal process plays out and not in his favor, well, then he's clearly obviously not going to be drafted inside the NFL. But if he is cleared and the background checks by the Dolphins front office check out on Lacy, his talent is absolutely worth the shot in the 7th round. We'll ultimately see how the legal process plays out, but if he is cleared, I would absolutely be looking to draft him in late day 3 because his talent, his size would be something to benefit the Miami Dolphins right away. You saw my mock draft. We had 7 picks, couple trades up into this draft. We addressed defensive line, corner, offensive line, safety. We hit all the needs, got some quarterback depth. Grade this mock draft for me, A, B, C, D, or F. Don't hold back down in the comment sections. And always make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we are going to have a lot of content to come out this week. Like I said, clips from the Combine. We'll have a lot of shorts. We'll have news and notes on who the Dolphins have met with, which prospects they are keeping their eye on. We'll have a full Mike McDaniel interview as well from the Combine. We've got boots on the ground from Chat Sports getting you that content. So be subscribed, be on the lookout. We'll also be live on Tuesday to break down more from the Miami Dolphins. So hit that sub button.